Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective Tran. It's the most wonderful time of the year. It's game week, baby. You ready?
We have to be.
He's like, I hope they are.
Yeah, I'm perfectly ready. I mean, I just go and watch. That's it.
Man, it's been a heck of a year, heck of an off season. Our first game under Steve Sarkisian, all the stadium changes. I'm excited to be there on September 4th, to see the South End Zone and all the updates, to see DKR at full capacity again
hmm
since 2019. So a lot of homecoming, a lot of first that's coming up. Very exciting time in the debut of Steve Sarkisian. As we get started, you guys make sure you smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. Help us support the channel. We have some big news coming later this week in regards to the channel. So, all of the support that we get, all the wonderful feedback that we've gotten on all of our socials, whether it's Twitter, appreciate everybody showing love on Twitter. Our IG platform has been growing a lot this week. So, got to throw out all the connects before we jump into our preview of number 21, Texas versus number 23, Louisiana Ragin Cajuns. And I will say, in all seriousness, before we jump into it, Tran, thoughts and prayers, of course, to everybody in the state of Louisiana for Hurricane Ida and, the destruction that has been caused down there. So we hope that everybody is safe, have their loved ones accounted for, and any property damage, any of those things like that, we're able to get community help and help those people move forward. So, and that includes the players on Louisiana that may have been impacted by the storm. So, one of the things I wanted to discuss with you, Tran, it being game week, we still have some of our season preview stuff to drop, but today we heard about the depth chart, and
hmm
many of you are probably going to see this video tomorrow, August 31st. But as of today, August 30th, the depth chart came out, and I'm going to go ahead and flash the depth chart so we can talk about it. But I wanted to start off just with your thoughts on what stood out to you, Steve Sarkisian's first game week depth chart.
Honestly, not that much really stood out. Probably the biggest thing, if it was kept under wraps, would have been Hudson Card over Casey Thompson, of course. But we knew about this a week or two ago. Um, you know, I first thing I saw Troy O'Mara, third on the depth chart, but I think that's just attributing to his knee injury. I think you and I are both in agreement that we don't think he's going to be playing this at least this game. They're going to give him as much time as needed to rehab and make sure that his body's right. So from a offensive standpoint, it's not that there's really not that much that is a shock to me. You know what I'm saying? From a defensive standpoint, I know people are going to think that Alfred Collins was getting a bunch of reps with the ones, but it's basically 1A 1B with him and Jacoby Jones. I mean, they're both going to get as much time as needed. Certain situations, whether it's pass rush, whether it's dropping into the flats to cover, who's going to be grabbing that. If I'm looking at it, I really do like how they have Ray Thornton and then Agofu right there at end and buck. But then I also like it if you look right underneath it, Agofu starting at the linebacker position. It's just showing that he's very versatile, which we've been hearing a lot about that, and it's showing on the actual depth chart. But what about you?
So for me, I first look at the people who aren't there, right? So to your point, you mentioned Troy O'Mara, who is on here, but like you said, I don't think he'll play with the knee, still recovering. Hopefully, for the sake of my fantasy teams, why I don't draft fantasy early that we did with Texas Platinum, he'll be back sooner rather than later. In regards to Jatavian Sanders, I think you'll notice there that you'll see, Kay Brewer, Jared Riley, and then Gunnar Helm, who is also a freshman tight end, but you don't see Juan Davis or Jatavian Sanders there. So will he play? Is it, is it development coming along maybe a little bit slower than anticipated? We'll see. Um, All senior secondary group, and I know this is actually kind of small, but if you look at Anthony Cook, Josh Thompson, Brennan Schooler, BJ Foster, Deshaun Jameson, just a senior laden backfield, and you marry all of that experience, all of those seniors with what we have up front. Really, really a veteran defense around. I mean, Luke Brockmeyer is junior. Marvin Overshone's listed as a senior. Ray Thornton's a transfer senior. Gofu, transfer junior. Coburn, Sweat, all these guys that have played so much. Jacoby Jones is a senior. So across the board, the amount of experience. The last thing I will mention in terms of what's kind of stuck out to me is Xavier Worthy, Jordan Whittington, Joshua Moore. How different that group looks physically, as well as their skill set from the Tom Herman receivers. Because you look at the Tom Herman receivers, they were normally pretty big, right? Colin Johnson, Lil Jordan Humphrey, different types of body types. We had X, Z, H, all these type of things. And now, the versatility. We've seen Joshua Moore play in the slot. We know Jordan Whittington can play in the slot. Xavier Worthy, spent a lot of time playing in the slot and outside, right? So all over the place, the versatility of these receivers, I think, is something to really, really pay a lot of attention to come September 4th against Louisiana. Now, Sark did mention something today that I did think was interesting from a standpoint of Casey Thompson playing, even though we know Hudson Card is the starter. But I think a lot of people are starting to freak out about, Steve, are we doing two quarterbacks? Like, what's good here, right? How much is Casey Thompson going to play? Is Casey Thompson is this only really applicable in a blowout scenario? Like, just want to touch on the quarterback thing, real quick before we jump into Louisiana prep, because I think that is something to really, really pay closely attention to in terms of how the quarterbacks are utilized right off the bat.
Well, number one, I'm going to say this offhand. I mean, this is just my personal opinion. I hate the switching out the quarterback carousel. I hate it. I want you to grab that person, stick with them. A lot of people gave Mac Brown a lot of crap when he stuck with Colt McCoy when it was Colt McCoy and Jevin Sneed. Even Colt McCoy's second year where he had that sophomore slump and he was throwing interceptions. I think he was almost 1-to-1 with interceptions and touchdowns. You ride with him. You have to live with the good and the bad. Hudson Card's not going to be a perfect quarterback. No one should expect that of him. So if he throws an interception on Saturday, I think you got to see how he reacts to that interception. Now, if it becomes something that happens week in, week out, where it's 3 interceptions to 1 touchdown, that's when you start saying, hey, you know what, I got to start looking at the experienced quarterback because I got to take care of the football. I don't like. I really don't like it. Them even throwing out that confusion of hey, yes, he's going to play as much as possible, or he's going to play and he's going to get plenty of time, unless he followed it up with whether it's a blowout either way, type of thing.
By the way, shout out to Cameron Dicker. I forgot to show your boy some love during the depth chart conversation.
Lock down the punter, baby.
Lock down the punter job. So Cameron Dicker will be handling all of the kicking duties. So another interesting thing to pay attention to. Going back to the quarterback conversation, I think game flow matters. I think you have to be very, very careful with how you do it. But I have seen, at least early in the season, where it doesn't hurt a team as you really start, like, because the way Steve Sarkisian is talking, it's like he wants to see more. And I think what he's really looking for is for Hudson Card to replicate what he's doing in practice in the games and
Mm-hmm.
to validate what he's seeing and what these coaches are seeing behind the scenes in person, right? And if he's able to do that, and there's a difference between him and Casey Thompson, because everyone's a lot of people have been labeling Casey Thompson with the gamer tag, right? Like, hey, when the lights come on, he's different. The way he performs, he's different. And the one piece of evidence we have, like, does help his case. Now we get to see, those type of things where he, I don't want to say Sark's hedging his bet, or it could be lip service. It could be lip service. It could just be, I'm saying that so Billy Napier has to prepare for two quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And I have no plans on pulling Hudson Card. I have no plans on playing Casey Thompson. So I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see, because the one advantage that Steve Sarkisian has right now that he'll never have again is no one has any clue what they're going to look like uh, with this group in this regime. Nobody, but like Louisiana can point to things with the Falcons. They can point to things with Bama. They can even look at how we finished last season if they want to look exclusively at personnel. But in regards to what our product's going to look like, Sark is play games for all I care. The thing is, though, I don't want it to be dudes looking over their shoulder. People aren't able to get into rhythm because we're doing musical chairs. That's what can't happen. So as long as you're able to avoid that, and we can, I trust Sark's discretion as a football mind to know, how to navigate that. That this is one of his first big tests, not just as an offensive mastermind, but as a head coach here, right, is handling this. And if he's able, I think it kind of coincides with how successful they'll be year one, right? If he's able to handle this and massage the quarterback thing properly, because we believe both of these guys can play. There's no doubt about that. But if he can do it properly in a very, very masterful manner, even look at the way Lincoln Riley did last year with Spencer Rattler, when they kind of weren't sure and they massaged it perfectly. If Sark is able to do that, then he can do what Charlie Strong and Tom Herman weren't able to do, which is get off to a fast start. That's got to be the difference within the program. Let's jump into Louisiana, because we're not
That's a
playing a
perfect.
normal.
Yeah, that's a perfect segue. You were talking about Charlie Strong and Tom Herman getting off to a fast start. Arguably, we're playing a tougher opponent than either of them, aside from Notre Dame when Charlie Strong started. But this is a top 25 team that is returning. What is it? We looked it up. It was 96% of their starting lineup, of a team that went 10-1 and also beat second place Iowa State team in Ames. I mean, this is not a team that we can overlook at all.
Not at all. If you guys see this article here that came out earlier, which college football teams will return the most production in 2021? As you can see, Brock Purdy, who's will have to go to Ames to face them. But these are the teams. Louisiana is number one in terms of returning production. We saw UCLA play this weekend against Hawaii. We'll see Miami play against Alabama. But Louisiana returning 96% of their production. Offensively, they're really only losing those running backs, Mitchell and the other brother that ran wild, in their bowl game all season long last year. They're losing that production. Defensively, 98% is, I mean, that's got to be tops in the country in terms of what they're returning. Everything I looked at, every single person is right where they were the previous year. So when we start talking about Billy Napier, and he's one of the hottest names right now in the coaching market in terms of people that are going to be poached for the next big job, for the next big Power Five job. And I have here experience, success, and coaching matter.
Mm-hmm.
Billy Napier, the last 2 years, is 21-4 at Louisiana. And these kids, when it's returning production for 2021, I know a lot of this is based off of 2020 and what these guys produced. Tran, a bulk of this group, offensively and defensively, started in 2019,
Mm-hmm.
right? When they went 11-3. This is a very, very veteran team and a team that is used to winning, a team that knows how to win, a team that has strung together wins, and a team that plays, Jimmy Johnson aside, our friend from the Sun Belt, all Sun Belt jokes aside, when you play in a conference with, you saw how Coastal Carolina performed last year. You play in a conference with App State. App State, I believe, beat them twice in 2019, including the Sun Belt championship game. You have schools in there like Arkansas State who got a dub last year against the Big 12. I believe that they beat Kansas State last year. So when you look at some of the schools they're playing and the sound production they've had, that's why Billy Napier is so highly regarded within the coaching community. That team's not going to be intimidated coming into Austin, Texas. That team's going to come into Austin, Texas. We're ranked 21, they're ranked 23. They're coming in here expecting to win
Mm-hmm.
because that's what they know. And it starts with their trigger man, Levi Lewis, their quarterback, who had a marvelous 2019 season. It was 26 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions, and over 3,000 yards passing. Last year wasn't as crisp, did have more turnovers, but overall still just pilots that offense. They run a lot of motion. They play out of the pistol. They
Mm-hmm.
play action off of a strong running game. We'll kind of break down their offensive line here in a little bit. And he has a great rapport with his 3 receivers, 3 consistent guys who have been around also since 2019. So consistency, good quarterback play, married with Billy Napier, and a defense that takes the ball away. They have all the ingredients are there to spoil Steve Sarkisian's opener. If you look at upset alert and all the type of things you look at from a G5 school, if you were to throw it together in the recipe of like, okay, this is what it would look like to take out a team. If you go back to this list, if you go here, Texas is what, 100 in terms of returning production. I'm sorry, we're 95th. Now 61%, by the way, is not even bad. But this is also a precursor to what we're about to experience this year in college football and why it's so unique. All of the COVID kids, these super senior teams, we lost people, but we
Mm-hmm.
lost we had a normal amount of attrition because I believe the normal number of returning production in college football year over year is like 59%. But these numbers are through the roof because of COVID, right? So you have these teams now who are loaded with experience, loaded with people that all of them played together, all of them have chemistry, plus you're getting people back that may have opted out or transfer portal. Louisiana's a team that also benefited from the transfer portal. I'll break down some of those guys they got, but this is a tough game for Texas, but a necessary test. A necessary test right off the bat, Tran.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I'm looking over their schedule. Let's be honest. This is the toughest game that they have on their schedule, and it's Texas. They want to come in here, and what you said it without saying it. Billy Napier wins this. You know how many big time programs are just going to throw the kitchen sink at him just to buy him next year, just to come to rebuild their programs. I mean, he's coaching just to prove a point at this point and for a paycheck. We have to get started, and I kind of want to segue it towards the offensive line because the offensive line will be facing, I feel, is our strongest unit, which is our defensive line.
So with their offensive line, they have 3 or 4 guys that had Sun Belt Belt honors last year. Some guys that even had Sun Belt honors from 2019, and guys that are respected, right? And this isn't to throw shade, but this is also where Texas has to stop playing up and down to the opposition. This is why this is one of these games where all the respect we just paid to Louisiana, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's use Shane Ballot as an example. Shane Ballot is the starting center for Louisiana. He's very decorated thus far. I think he was second team all conference last year. He's a Remington watch list. He's got all these accolades. Great story, former walk-on that Billy Napier put under scholarship, and he's become one of the best players in their program. With that being said, the brother is 6 foot, 267 pounds. You do not see starting centers like that in Power 5 schools. There's a reason for that. At some point, physics matters. And if I were to tell somebody you didn't know a thing about Louisiana, and I told you that their starting center is 267 pounds, and you know what you have in Keandre Coburn, you know what you have in Ojimo, you know what you have in Tavondre Sweat and Vernon Brown and Alfred Collins, and the list goes on. I'm not saying everybody's going to be attacking, the A gap and B gap and all that type of stuff, but at least Coburn, right? Just Coburn alone. How do we not dominate that matchup? No disrespect to Shane Ballard, but at some point, you don't see Alabama trotting out 267-pound centers, is my point. Size matters, especially at this level. Dominate your matchup. And when you have matchups like that, and granted, yeah, they have a guard there, Osiris Torrance, who's 6'5", 332, who's also started, I think, 24 straight games for Louisiana. Very good run and pass blocking. Dominate your matchup. Dominate your matchup. Because that's where we can muster up that confidence. And Bo Davis had a hell of a day today, by the way. Hell of a day. Everybody else talking about Texas recruiting, slagging. He's not slacking at all.
Nope.
Dominate your matchup. Because to me, the one area where Louisiana did lose some guys is the running backs, right? But they have a guy there, I believe it's Chris Smith. If I'm not mistaken, please, if I got his name wrong, I'm sorry. But I think it's Chris Smith taking over, who's another shifty dude. And then they have some interesting options. Jacob Cabote, who was at Texas A&M, we're talking about transfer portal. Yep. Cabote was at Texas A&M, was a running back, but they got him playing, I believe, receiver. I don't know if he's doing some sort of hybrid look. I'm very curious to see how Billy Napier uses Jacob Cabote. He's rocking number 0 on Louisiana. He was very highly regarded in A&M circles at one point, but how these people operate, to me, this is just real simple football analysis right here. Defensive line does their job. We're putting everything on Levi Lewis. And as experienced as Levi Lewis is, he is not super talented with his arm. There will be opportunities to turn the football over. There will be opportunities. I mean, you even saw in the spring game with Louisiana where they picked him off in the end zone. There's going to be some balls that sail on him. He's very heady. He's a great ball handler in terms of fakes, jet sweeps. We know we had problems with our eyes against Maryland a few years ago. So all these things, Pete Kwiatkowski, Jeff Choate, just discipline, right? Filling the proper holes. They'll do outside zone. But if you're able to just mash them up at the point of attack to where they are one-dimensional and they're getting into a lot of 2nd and 8s, they're getting into 2nd and 9s, and it's, we got to try to throw the ball all day long against all these seniors back there in Texas' secondary, then Texas should be successful and win this game off defense alone before we even get to what we can do with Steve Sarkisian on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah. So going to your about Levi Lewis, I think this will probably be the most hostile environment he's played. I know I think he played against Mississippi State in 2019. I may be wrong on that. But we haven't had our stadium packed out in over a year. It's going to be a different type of environment at DKR field. It's going to be in the middle of the day. It's going to be extremely hot. It is. It's going to be hot. It's going to bother people. But it's the first game of the season. We're going against a top 25 team. Defensive line, I want them to play they've played like they play against Oklahoma. Our defensive line has played very well against Oklahoma. And no disrespect to the Cajuns, I don't think that they're on Oklahoma's level from last year. You win your matchups. You touched on it beforehand. We have a very, very experienced secondary. You get that ball, you get a chance at that ball, don't drop it. Take it off, turn that game around. I mean,
Levi Lewis will give you some. There'll be
they'll give
one
you
or two
some
balls.
opportunities.
He will give you some opportunities.
Don't
He was able
don't
to
blow them.
thread the needle in the Iowa State game last year. But again, that Iowa State game was weird, and it was special teams, and Billy Napier had some specials for him. You can't fall for the cookies either, right? Like we have to, teams like this, you have to be straight up and down, and they'll be confident. They remind me, switching over to them on defense in terms of their discipline and what they return. They're not very big, but they're fast to the ball. They remind me of TCU, where you have very good safety play, you have very good aggressive corners, and you have people that take away the football.
Yep.
And now, unlike TCU, they'll be more of a three-man front with the two inside backers and some edge guys. But even those guys in there that have a million tackles between the two, McCaskill and Gardner, all these guys, they're small. And this goes back to the other thing when we talk about the defensive line. Offensive line, Bijan Robinson, do your thing. Keep the party going, right? We talked about Hudson Card and Casey Thompson and all that. Bro, if we run the rock the way we ran against Kansas State, the way we ran against Colorado, and you keep that momentum going, even what we saw in the spring game, Roshan Johnson's able to get in there. Keelan Robinson's able to get in there. That's an area of opportunity because Louisiana is sound and as veteran laden as they are. They have had issues with their run defense. A lot of it is just because they don't have the physical bodies to hold up to it. Even UTSA in their bowl game, McCormick, who's one of the best backs in the state of Texas from a college football perspective. Shout out to Jeff Traylor and those boys in San Antonio. They had a lot of success running the football, especially in the second half. Their quarterback actually ran for, I think, over 100 yards as well. So Brees Hall had 100 yards, but he fumbled. Mm-hmm. So you just don't do like the dumb stuff.
Yep.
They will get their yards, especially in the run game. Louisiana's goal is almost bend, don't break, try to take the football away. Try to bait the young quarterback. They're going to be focused on Hudson Card and trying to load up to try to make it one-dimensional. And I think you have to stick to your guns if you're Texas and establish your run and establish your play action. So that Hudson Card, whether it's Casey Thompson in there, they're able to get in there and be comfortable. High percentage throws. The same way that the same type of script that Mac Jones got so comfortable with early on, right? This isn't rocket science to me.
No, it's not. No. The face of the program has to have the ball. I mean, let's be honest. If he doesn't get the 20 touches this game, I'll be extremely shocked. I think even if they stack the box, I think he's still going to be able to fall forward because if you're talking because of what you brought up is the physicality and the size. He's faced against stacked boxes his whole career, so his whole career, even in high school. So it's not like it's something new that he hasn't seen.
I will say this. I can tolerate. I know all of us are going to be monitoring the hell out of Bijan's touches. I can tolerate him not getting 20 carries if it's a blowout.
Blowout. Yep. Blowout. Nope. I agree
because
with
you. We did see them, even with Najee Harris, they restricted carries when they were.
It's because it's a law of averages. Like later on in the season, he's going to get a 28 carry game or a 28
Exactly.
touch game. So
Exactly.
it's on. Like, I agree completely with you. But say it's a
Early in the game, he needs to
one
be
or a small
established,
two,
though.
yeah, or if it's a one to small two possession game, like anywhere from 5 to 10 points, he needs to get touches. We need the ball in his hands, and I feel that Sarkisian will get the ball in the best player's hands at the right moments.
So, with that feeling, let's get into predictions and get out of here so I can hear from our wonderful fans in the comments. Trent, what's your prediction, final score, and how do you see this game playing out?
I'm going to say 27-35 Texas.
So you have it. So you have Louisiana covering.
Yep.
Okay.
I
35-27.
Yep.
35-27 Texas. Okay.
Mhm.
So break that down for me. How are we getting there?
We're going to control the clock. I do think that we're going to get an interception and flip the field, at least one possession. I just think that, over the course of the game, I think that they'll come out pumped up to play us, and don't be shocked if we go 3-and-out the first offensive possession. But over the course of the game, with the heat, with the depth that we have, we should hit them in droves, and I think it should start wearing on them from a just a attrition and them being tired and worn out perspective.
I have Texas winning this game, and I do have a wider margin than you do. So I have 42. I'll go 42-20. And I know that sounds, that's a blowout. However, I do think that it's one of those games where, the final score is not indicative to how close the fight was or the game was, but over time we kind of stretch it out by making some plays. And the reason being is as experienced as Louisiana is, and I just feel as though the physical nature, and I think you're going to see some scheme stuff that they just aren't prepared for. I think we're finally going to see some stuff where we open up, even off play action or whatever, where we just get somebody naked wide open, whether it's Jordan Whittington or Xavier Worthy, where we're able to make those explosive game breaking type plays. I think where Iowa State went really, really bad last year in terms of their special teams, I think we're able to actually generate something in special teams and flip it the other way. I have a lot of respect for Billy Napier and his team. I'm not blown away by Levi Lewis. I think if they had stronger quarterback play, and he's arguably their best player on their team, but I'm also not like, oh, this guy's going to come in here and dot me up the way Joe Burrow did, right? Where it's just like we can't. Now, if that starts happening, then we got to question everything, in my opinion. It's just me watching ball and me, wearing my Texas fan hat right now, obviously too. But in my gut, I feel good about what's going to happen on Saturday. I feel good about it. I know we're both projecting a win, but we have very different outcomes in terms of the conversation. I think the conversation, if we win 35-27, I think it will be an interesting conversation heading into Arkansas.
I don't think so, because I think yeah, there'll be one or two plays where you're talking about where they get them naked, but I think that we're going to play them pretty straight up and not give away too much of our playbook or anything like that. So
I hear you, but you also need to come out like because that was kind of our mentality when we played Maryland. Was let's get by, let's not show the whole thing. We're going to enter
no,
the clip against USC.
that was not. We just did not show up. I think we were poorly coached for those games. This is completely different from Maryland. I honestly think that we should be able to line up the ball and beat them straight up. honestly. And you don't want to give away all any type of film or any type of weaknesses to a team that's not a Power Five conference team. You don't want to do that. You don't.
But do you look at them as a team that's not a Power Five team, or do you look at them as a team that's the number 23 team in the country?
You look at them as a team that beat the second place Big 12 team. That's what you look at. That to me is enough motivation for us to win. So
Yeah. Texas shouldn't get caught sleeping,
yeah.
but at the same token, they're not. You talked about stadium and the DKR and everything.
So
I look
so
at it
to,
both ways. We could pull the move like we did a few years ago where we turned the AC off on the Louisiana boys. That'd be kind of cruel to do after the
yeah.
hurricane and everything. But in all seriousness, we didn't really turn the AC off. That's hearsay from LSU people. Uh, in all seriousness, though, I love our crowd. And I think we're gonna have great energy. We got to show up as fans too.
Mhm.
We've had problems. I've heard people in the conference and say we had no problems playing at DKR. Right? Like it's not a tough environment to play. Like that's a narrative outside of Texas that opposing people have when they come in. Now, I will say that the acoustics in the stadium, as they start to close it in more, we can hold that sound in there better when we do get loud and rowdy and stuff. But me personally, I've never heard of anyone saying that Texas is a tough place to play. I think the only games where I was like, oh, we really, really were like that was like LSU or Notre Dame or USC, where it was like just super, super big game. But we have to be that way all the time. And I know a lot of people say, well, Steve, we'll be that way if we're good. We can't be that
We
kind of like that
yeah
has
we
to
we
be a
got to do our
given.
part. Yeah, you got to do
You
your
have to
part
do your
to
part.
help. You have to do your part. No, I mean and anyone who doesn't think
3:30
that home
kickoff.
yeah,
Stands need to be full. It's not an 11 o'clock kickoff, right? Like, just saying. Just saying. Anyway, y'all let us know in the comments your predictions. Tran had a 35-27. I had a 42-20, both in favor of Texas over Louisiana. Y'all let me know if I'm giving too much credit to Texas and product launch or if Tran
I hope you're
is
right. I hope it is a blowout. I want you to be right, but I gotta put until I see it on the
until I
field from
see it.
Texas.
I'm with you.
I've seen what Louisiana can do, so that's why I'm erring on the side of caution. I don't want to get my hopes up a la Texas Tech last year, and then have my heart ripped out. So
For
that's me.
sure. For sure. One thing I will say though is, regardless of outcome, we'll be here to talk about it with you guys, and we appreciate, like we said, the support of the channel. Make sure you show us some love, hit that like button, subscribe, the whole bit. Big news dropping midweek, into the week. We'll see. Like I said, as we continue to grow the platform, guys, we appreciate it. Let's go get a dub on September 4th. Remember, Horns always up.